Every day, invisible strings control your emotions. Your boss pulls one string, you feel anxious. Social media pulls another, you feel inadequate. The news pulls a third, you feel worried about things you can't control. Your inner peace is being held hostage, and you're paying the ransom every day. Traffic jams demand your calm. Difficult people take your confidence. Unexpected problems steal your happiness. You've become a sophisticated puppet, dancing to other people's moods, societal expectations, and random events. Your emotional state is outsourced to forces beyond your control. But what if every single one of those strings is optional? What if the most powerful people in history figured out how to cut them all and become emotionally sovereign? Marcus Aurelius ruled the world while dealing with plagues and wars. Seneca became incredibly wealthy while facing exile and death threats. Epictetus went from literal slave to teacher of Roman leaders. They didn't build external empires first. They built something modern people have forgotten, an internal empire. You're successful on paper but still dancing to other people's rhythms. You have achievements but can't handle a difficult conversation without anxiety. You make good money but your peace depends on your boss's mood. Today, you'll discover the 10 habits that cut every string and crown you emperor of your own mind. Not strategies, liberation. Not motivation, sovereignty. These aren't strategies. These are coronations. Marcus Aurelius, because the difference between being unstoppable and being dependent isn't what you achieve. It's who rules your inner world. Here's what the billion-dollar self-help industry doesn't want you to discover. Everything you've been taught about building strength actually creates hidden dependency. It's not that books, apps, or courses are useless. They're tools. But when you become addicted to tools without building the hand that wields them, you become dependent. Here's what I see happening. People collecting strategies like Pokemon cards, but never developing the mental muscle to use them. Buying course after course, reading book after book, but their emotional state still gets hijacked by a bad email. You can't buy your way to emotional freedom. You have to build it from the inside out. And here's what recent research reveals about this massive industry. Custom Market Insights 2024 Global Self-Improvement Industry, worth $45.7 billion annually, with consumers repeatedly purchasing similar solutions without lasting change. In other words, you're part of a $45 billion cycle where people buy temporary solutions but never develop lasting internal strength. Think about your typical day. You wake up and immediately grab your phone, letting other people's emergencies become your priorities. You start reactive, feeling behind before you've even begun. I'll just check messages quickly. Oh no, this is urgent. Why does everything always go wrong? I'm already stressed and the day hasn't started. You end each day scrolling feeds or binge-watching, avoiding the slight discomfort of examining your own kingdom. You repeat the same mistakes because you never pause to learn from them. You live in constant worry about things that might happen, checking news obsessively, letting distant events you can't control determine your emotional state. What if the economy crashes? What if I get sick? I need to stay informed about every possible threat, even though it makes me miserable. Here's what this actually looks like. You're having a good day until your boss snaps at you, and suddenly your whole day crumbles. Your mood depends on a traffic jam. A negative comment destroys your confidence for hours. That's not normal emotional response. That's being emotionally hijacked. Traffic, boss's mood, social media comments, random news, other people's problems, all controlling your emotional state like a remote control in someone else's hands. This is what happens when you live as an emotional hostage instead of an emotional sovereign. But here's what scientists discovered when they studied the 1% of people who stay unshakable during any crisis. Crawl et al., 2022. 1 month of mindfulness meditation increases connectivity between brain networks that support focus and self-regulation. Nature Scientific reports. In simple terms, recent brain science shows that specific mental practices literally rewire your mind for unshakable internal command. Elite performers become more resilient, not by controlling what happens to them, but by mastering their responses. The Stoics discovered this 2,000 years before we had brain scanners. True power isn't controlling what happens to you. It's commanding your responses to what happens to you. And here's what decades of research confirm about people who achieve lasting success without breaking. Seligman, 2018. Learned optimism, grounded in reality rather than wishful thinking, predicts greater well-being, resilience, and physical health compared to naive positive thinking. What this means. Martin Seligman's research validates what the Stoics practiced. Realistic preparation, combined with rational hope, creates genuine resilience, not the fragile optimism that crumbles under pressure. When researchers studied why some people thrive during setbacks, while others collapse, they found something that validates ancient wisdom. Cross and Sheffield, 2021. Mental contrasting of both goals and obstacles significantly boosts motivation and goal achievement compared to positive thinking alone. Frontiers in Psychology Meta-Analysis. The bottom line? A comprehensive analysis confirms that imagining both your goals and potential obstacles, the Stoic practice of mental preparation, dramatically outperforms positive thinking alone. These aren't just philosophical concepts. They're brain training patterns for building internal empires. The Stoics accidentally discovered what neuroscientists are just now proving. The Stoics weren't philosophers in ivory towers. They were the most practical empire builders in history who faced real crises and developed real solutions. They developed these mental training methods not for academic discussions, but for survival and dominance in the real world. These weren't secrets. They were core training for anyone who wanted to rule their own destiny. Navy SEALs, Olympic athletes, and even Steve Jobs all practiced versions of this, choosing discomfort before it arrived, preparing their mental empire before battle. The worth of a man is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. Marcus Aurelius. Here's the key insight they discovered. You can't control the storms, but you can learn to be the calm center that never moves. And here's what modern research confirms about their approach. Duckworth, 20 Grit, Passion and Perseverance, drives deliberate practice, which is the single most important factor in achieving mastery, regardless of talent. What this proves. Angela Duckworth's research validates what Marcus Aurelius practiced. Focusing on your process, rather than outcomes, literally rewires your brain for unstoppable performance. The Stoics discovered that specific daily practices can crown you emperor of your own mind, not through force or willpower, but through strategic mental training. Today, you'll learn their exact methods, upgraded with modern science. But you might be thinking, this sounds harsh. Isn't it unhealthy to imagine losing everything or seek out difficulty? Shouldn't I focus on gratitude and positivity? This concern reveals exactly how modern comfort culture has weakened your mental immune system. You've been conditioned to think that preparing for difficulty is pessimistic, that mental toughness is somehow cruel. But this is like saying physical exercise is unhealthy because it's uncomfortable. What is grief but an opinion? Epictetus. The Stoics weren't pessimists. They were realists who became optimists through preparation. When you've mentally rehearsed losing your job, your health, or your relationships, you don't live in fear of these possibilities. You're freed, from their power over you. Here's what researchers found when they studied people who maintain meaning during extreme adversity. Vess et al., 2024. Contemplating mortality can increase life meaning and purposeful action when people reflect on what matters most, rather than simply feeling anxious about death. What this means. Recent studies confirm that honestly facing potential loss makes people more alive, not less. They don't become morbid. They become urgent about what truly matters. You can continue building your life on external foundations that crumble during every crisis. Or you can learn to rule your own inner world. You stand at the most important moment of your life, the choice between coronation and continued subjugation. Path 1. Continued subjugation. You remain a subject in other people's empires. You continue seeking external motivation, checking your phone for inspiration, depending on circumstances aligning perfectly with your preferences. Years pass. When real challenges arrive, job loss, health scares, relationship problems, you crumble because you've never built an internal empire. You realize you've been a lifelong consumer of strength rather than a creator of it. Path 2. Internal sovereignty. You begin building your internal empire through the ancient practices. You start each morning commanding your day and end each evening reviewing your kingdom. You become what you repeatedly do. Excellence is not an event, but a habit. Will Durant, summarizing Aristotle in Stoic thought. Month by month, you notice the transformation. Setbacks that would have destroyed your peace become minor speed bumps. Other people's bad moods stop infecting yours. You make decisions based on your values rather than your fears. When external chaos increases, internal calm must increase. 5 years from now, you're the person everyone turns to during a crisis, not because nothing bad happens to you, but because you've become unbreakable when it does. Which throne will you claim? The choice, as always, is yours, but now you know the path to rule. Let me show you exactly how to become emotionally bulletproof, starting with the foundation that everything else rests on. These 3 foundation habits will start rewiring your brain immediately. Habit 1. Morning command. Own your day before it owns you. Before checking your phone or talking to anyone, spend 5 minutes commanding your emotional state. Ask yourself, what challenges might I face today? How will I respond when my coworker interrupts me again? When the meeting runs late? When I feel like snapping at my partner? What will I accomplish that aligns with my deepest values? Win the morning, win the day. Lose the morning, get hijacked by everything else. This is how emperors prepared for ruling, not by reacting to whatever happened, but by commanding their response in advance. Habit 2. Evening review. Learn from your emotional reactions. Each night, review your mental performance, like Marcus Aurelius did. What went well? What triggered you? Where did emotions hijack your logic? Where did you stay calm under pressure? This isn't self-criticism. It's gathering intelligence to become emotionally smarter tomorrow. Habit 3. Present moment discipline. Stop mental time travel. Your mind wants to live everywhere except right now. Past regrets, future anxieties, imaginary conversations, worst-case scenarios. This mental time travel is stealing your life. When your mind wanders to yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's worries, immediately return to commanding this moment, right now. Your first 24 hours as emperor, tonight. Practice evening review, 5 minutes before bed. Tomorrow, practice morning command before touching your phone. This week, notice when your mind wanders. Practice present moment discipline. Master these 3 for 30 days. Notice how different you feel. Then you'll be ready for the next level. Listen, you don't have to be perfect at this. You'll forget sometimes. You'll reach for your phone first thing in the morning. You'll snap at someone. You'll get emotionally hijacked by traffic. That doesn't mean you've lost your crown. It means you're still learning how to wear it. Every emperor had bad days. What made them powerful was how they returned to the throne. Once your foundation is solid, you're ready to become emotionally anti-fragile through voluntary challenge. This is where you transform from someone who avoids discomfort to someone who uses it as training. Soft times create soft minds. Hard times create hard minds. Choose your hard. Habit 4. Voluntary discomfort. Build your emotional immune system. Cold showers, difficult conversations, uncomfortable truths, early mornings, saying no when you want to please everyone. Choose your discomfort before life chooses it for you. When involuntary hardship arrives, it feels familiar because you've been training in the voluntary gym of difficulty. Habit 5. Mental preparation. The Emperor's readiness. Weekly, spend time imagining losing something important, your job, health, or relationship. Not dwelling morbidly, but feeling genuine appreciation for your current kingdom, while preparing your rule for potential losses. Habit 6. Obstacle transformation. The Emperor's alchemy. When problems arise, immediately ask, how can this strengthen my rule? What skill is this forcing me to develop? How might this redirect my empire towards something better? Turn every setback into training. Habit 7. Emotional objectivity. The Emperor's counsel. When strong emotions arise, step back and observe them, like an emperor receiving reports from advisors. Ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Does this reaction serve my wise rule? You feel emotions without being ruled by them. The final level transforms you from someone who practices Stoicism to someone who embodies it. This is where you become truly unstoppable. Habit 8. Process excellence. The Emperor's method. Focus entirely on your effort, preparation, and execution, rather than outcomes you can't control. Seneca applied this to business deals. Command your inputs, accept whatever outputs result, with imperial dignity. Habit 9. Mortality awareness. The Emperor's urgency. Daily remember that you will die, not morbidly, but as motivation to rule wisely. Ask, if I had 1 year to live, would I spend it this way? Death awareness doesn't create fear. It creates urgency for what matters. Habit 10. Radical acceptance. The Emperor's peace. Loving your circumstances, even the difficult ones. Accept with imperial dignity whatever happens in your empire. When traffic delays you, when people disappoint you, when plans fail, find something to appreciate about ruling during exactly these circumstances. You were born to rule your own mind, like an emperor rules his kingdom. Marcus Aurelius, adapted from Meditations. Remember that anxiety from constantly seeking external validation. That fragility when things didn't go your way. That sense that you were always one crisis away from collapse. You now understand those feelings differently. They weren't signs of personal weakness. They were symptoms of living as a subject in other people's empires, instead of ruling your own. The willing, destiny guides them. The unwilling, destiny drags them. Seneca. The Stoics discovered something the modern world desperately wants you to forget. True power comes from within, can't be bought, and doesn't require constant external reinforcement. When you practice these 10 habits, you become what Marcus Aurelius called unshakable. Not because nothing can harm you, but because you rule your responses to whatever happens. You are an actor in a play. Play your part well, but remember, you chose to rule your performance. Epictetus. When you master these practices, something beautiful happens. You stop buying solutions and start being the solution. You stop seeking motivation and start generating inspiration. You stop fearing challenges and start welcoming them as opportunities to strengthen your rule. The habits that built empires, survived persecution, and created unshakable sovereignty have been waiting for you. Not hidden in expensive courses or complex systems, but in the simple daily practices of history's most powerful people. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, but to rule your own kingdom so well that their chaos cannot touch you. Marcus Aurelius. What if becoming unstoppable isn't about finding the right motivation, but about claiming your throne? What if the strength you've been seeking outside yourself has been waiting within you all along? Not for permission, but for coronation. Your throne is empty. Your mind is waiting. You don't need more motivation. You need a coronation. The choice has always been yours. But now you know how to rule. Rule it. If this showed you how to stop being a subject and start being an emperor, share this with someone else who's ready to claim their throne. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos that teach you to rule your own destiny instead of serving others. And in the comments, tell me which level you're starting with. Foundation, strength, or mastery. Your declaration might inspire someone else to begin building their empire.